What up guys, Junior Post here on a beautiful Sunday night following the first 6 matchups of the Copa America Centenario. We had some great matchups, some not so great matchups, teams that overachieved, teams that played like absolute shit and seemed like they just wanted to fight each other, and then teams that just were underwhelming, and just, overall it's been kind of a bummer. But we did finish off very strongly with a beautiful matchup between Uruguay and Mexico. So that's a nice positive to round out the week of the Copa America so far. Now, basically I'm going to be giving my analysis, my thoughts, and just some of my musings and on the games and the matchups that went down. So of course, to start off, I'm going to go with the opening game of Colombia versus US. This was a big deal as the US is the host nation. I was in my home state. I live in LA, but this matchup was up north in Santa Clara. The US, to me, is a little bit a notch below Colombia in overall class. Colombia is a very solid squad. They have tremendous players like James Rodriguez, Carlos Bacca, who's doing very well in Italy, has done well for Sevilla in the past, and even Juan Cuadrado, who's another talent that is still kind of seeing his potential, but still a very good player. So I think overall, Colombia is just a notch above, and I had Colombia beating the US to start off with. Even though I am, don't get me wrong, I was rooting for the US, I did have Colombia beating them, unfortunately, in the first round, and they did. However, the US played much better, in my opinion, actually played better than Colombia, played much better than what the scoreline says, no doubts, especially in defense. I thought we were very unlucky. Yeah, they had that one, the opening goal was very solid, beautiful volley from Christian Zapata. He gave that sort of screen on Jeff Cameron, freed himself up, hit it one time, beautiful goal. No questions asked about that. Excuse me. But a little bit unlucky on the handball. Bradley got the tackle, deflected to another player. These things happen, I understand it's football. I still thought the US played better than Colombia. We had more opportunities on goal. Dempsey had a beautiful free kick that was just barely fingertip saved by Ospina, who had an amazing game, by the way. Bradley had a goal cleared off the line, a header. And yes, Bacca did have that one that went off the post. That was after the game had opened up and the US had really started to open the attacking lanes and really started to push forward to get some equalizing goals in. But overall, I thought the US were just a bit unlucky not to come out with a better result. At the very least, a draw in this game. But there's still a lot of positives to take from this game. Again, defensively, I thought we looked very well. Bradley and Dempsey were starting to get freed up once Nagby came in. I really wish Nagby would have played more with Bobby Wood. I thought that sort of trident with Pulisic would have been a much more exciting, dynamic, attacking trio going forward. So I really wish, hopefully in the upcoming games, we start to see more of those guys playing with each other, because they're very exciting, kind of similar players that play off one another, and I think that's a positive thing to look forward to. Colombia, to me, lacked imagination. James didn't look on his best. He scored a PK, but didn't look on his best. Cuadrado, not so much. Even Bacca missed a couple of clear-cut opportunities and didn't look super on it. So I don't know so much about Colombia now going into, luckily for them and luckily for the US, the other two teams in the group are pretty weak, but I still don't see Colombia doing too well outside of the group stage. Speaking of the other two teams in this group, Costa Rica and Paraguay, one of the ugliest games of football I have ever seen in my life. There was a yellow card within 22 seconds of this match. I saw studs left and right, just ugly, brutal tackles. These guys didn't even seem like they wanted to score goals. I don't understand what happened in this game. It was just straight up physical, ugly, boring. And then of course there was a red card in the 93rd minute. Costa Rican, I think it was the center back. And I mean, that kind of just goes to show where that game was. 0-0, very few shots on target, if any. I don't know if there was any shots on target. But again, just overall an ugly game. Not a good way to show the American public what soccer is about. That was more of like a rugby, hockey. I don't even know what to call that. It was just an ugly, ugly game. I want to forget about that as quick as possible, obviously. Moving along, we have Haiti and Peru. This was a little bit more of an exciting game. Not a lot of talent or flair, but a lot of a lot of vigor, a lot of excitement, a lot of getting forward and getting after it type of play. Haiti's a pretty exciting squad to watch, super athletic. They got after it. They're not a side that sits back. they're kind of physical, but they're way more attack-minded than a lot of the CONCACAF sides that you're gonna see. So Peru is a very like-minded, similar side, and that's what happened. They kind of counterattacked each other. You know, fairly exciting back and forth. Haiti had a couple of good opportunities, a nice free kick, a couple of nice shots. The Haitian goalkeeper had made a beautiful one-handed save on a one-on-one, but Peru did break through eventually, and Guerrero scored, I think it was his 11th goal in all of Copa America competitions, which is pretty nuts, man. That's an amazing stat. So good for Peru. They did well. I had Haiti topping Peru in this match, but Peru just had a little bit extra to take over Haiti, and it was a pretty solid game. Now, again, nothing super crazy. There wasn't an incredible amount of technique or flair or world-class talent, but just a good, nice, fun game to watch. Probably the most disappointing fixture of the 6 that have gone on so far was Brazil and Ecuador. I was not super surprised by this because to start off the tournament, I have Brazil finishing below Ecuador in this group. 2 big reasons, and something that people are forgetting is that Brazil don't really have a solid striker. They're relying on Jonas, who did well in his European campaign, but he's not that next level guy like a Neymar or a Douglas Costa, who are both not on the squad. Douglas Costa through injury, Neymar is going to be playing in the Olympics later on in the summer. So, you know, their midfield is stacked. They got Coutinho, Casemiro, Willian, but they're not those top level goal scoring guys. Those guys are going to grind out Portugal when you need them to. There's none of those guys on that squad, unfortunately. Even the likes of Hulk, who I think is I'm pretty sure is on the squad, he's not that guy either. So Brazil are a bit toothless going forward, and that's why they struggled in this game. That was very apparent in this game. They had 68% possession. I think more. I think it ended up being like 70% possession once the game was over. But they just lacked that extra touch of class in the final third. Very apparent. Ecuador, well organized, solid athletic side. It seemed like they, you know, once they did counterattack, they didn't really try super hard to do anything with the ball. They had a decent free kick, but nothing else outside of that. Just a really boring, disappointing game. Again, this is a pretty big example of how Brazil, to me, is not going to do well in this tournament. Outside of the group stage, I don't see them doing anything. Ironically, they still can win this group, but they have a very weak group, so nothing to really write home about there. Moving along, we had Jamaica versus Venezuela. On paper, just 2 kind of average weak sides. Jamaica, maybe on paper, I favored them a little bit more. They have more experience. I thought they had more weapons going forward. Unfortunately, this was a game, I think, where the heat played a big role. You saw that players were getting tired. There was a lot of water breaks and things like that. But I think the sun and the heat in this game played a big role in the players' energy. You could see them kind of just, it seemed a little bit lackluster. There was some ugly tackles, as you would expect from any sort of match between a CONCACAF and a South American side, especially ones that are on the top level. And that was definitely the case in this one. Venezuela scored a decent little goal off of after they dispossessed Jamaica on their own third. A little 1-2, nice little goal. Nothing else to write home about. Outside of Jamaica did have a nice free kick at the end, hit the post. Other than that, pretty boring game. Those, you know, right after the opening game, those 3-4 games that kind of happened were nothing really exciting to witness, unfortunately. But we did have a nice juicy matchup tonight, and that was Uruguay versus Mexico. These guys have played in the World Cup before. These guys have a pretty nice, decent history. Mexico's been playing incredible lately. Uruguay, I had no idea. I made the mistake of not realizing that Luis Suarez was injured. I found out maybe 10 minutes before the game. That completely changed my mentality and the way I viewed the game. As soon as that happened, I was like, wow, Mexico's gonna win this game, no doubt. Another thing I forgot was that Mexico playing in the US, especially playing on the coast, playing in California, playing in Texas, Texas is in the coast, but it's very close to Mexico. Texas or Arizona, obviously, it's gonna be like they're playing in Mexico. This was definitely the case in Arizona today. It sounded like the Azteca. You heard the whole puto chants and all that shit. Like, it was Mexico. They were in Mexico, period. It was 98%, maybe even more. There may have been like 4 fans from Uruguay in the whole crowd. And to top it off, the guys whoever was in charge of playing the Uruguayan national anthem at the beginning of the game, they fucked up and they played the wrong. They played Chile's national anthem. So if you go back and watch the tape, you can see the confusion on the Uruguayan player's face. It was like being at Azteca. I mean, it was completely 100% Mexico to start. So the atmosphere was nuts. Mexico took full advantage of that early on, blitzed Uruguay like crazy, and Uruguay looked shell-shocked from the beginning. The goal I thought was a Chicharito header, but it ended up going off of Pereira's face, I believe, so it ended up being an old goal. But Chicharito was right there, he had good positioning, and Mexico was just on him in the first 20-30 minutes. After that, Uruguay started to slow the game down with some ugly, brutal physical tackles. Mexico would counter with that. Guardado got a very silly red card, or excuse me, a very silly yellow card open to in the first half. Just no need for that tackle, and it ended up, biting him in the ass later on in the game, obviously. But after, Uruguay got a red card shortly before halftime, and that really, to me, I thought, oh no, Mexico's going to take over this game, and they're going to dominate. It's going to be 3-0, 4-0, without a doubt. Kind of a weird thing happened. It ended up galvanizing Uruguay. Uruguay came out, and it looked like they were the team with the man advantage. Something that Mexico tends to do is when they have leads, they like to be complacent and just kind of pass the ball around. And they started to do that, and Uruguay came at them. Diego Godin was making these crazy runs that I had no idea he was able to, he even had that sort of in him. There was someone on Twitter, I think it was Heath Pierce or Jimmy Connor, that said I had no idea, Diego Godin had that in him. Again, I agreed with 100%. I echoed his sentiment 100%. I saw this big goofy guy making a run. I go, who the hell is that? And I see the captain's armband. Sure enough, it's Godin making these crazy 1-2s up the middle of the park and almost scoring on several occasions. It was pretty crazy. He actually did end up scoring off of a nice header, tied the game up, and then you thought, wow, the momentum has shifted to Uruguay's corner, and Mexico looked shell-shocked. Guardado picks up a red. That ends up galvanizing Mexico. The role switch, and Mexico kind of wake up and say, oh shit, we're in a game with a really good team. Maybe we should play. And then Mexico started, they made a couple of key substitutions. Then you saw Mexico start to really pick it up. They maintained their possession again. But not only did they maintain their possession, but they started to attack and to look dangerous. They got a little bit of a fluky deflection that landed at the feet of Rafa Marquez, a player who I was kind of laughing at the beginning. I was like, what is this old ass dude doing on this team still? How is he still playing? Then he goes and he shuts me up really quick and scores a beautiful goal. Top right hand corner, puts his foot through it. Mexico after that were pretty much on it. They again had another counterattack once Uruguay realized they had to open the game up. Diego Godin was pretty much playing forward at one point, it looked like, and that leaves a huge void at the back. Mexico took full advantage of that counterattack. Herrera with pretty much a gimme header, and that was it. 3-1 Mexico. Mexico even could have scored again on another header that I believe Rafa Marquez had pretty much wide open, but he ended up handing it to the goalie, and that was it. It could have been 4-5-1 at the end of it. I thought Uruguay was pretty lucky to come out with that result, but good on Mexico. They played very, very well. They put CONCACAF on their back, and they showed what we're capable of, as Mexico always really tends to do in big tournaments against solid opposition. They've done it against Brazil, they've done it against Uruguay, they've done it against Holland, they've done it against all these teams. So it wasn't super shocking, but I completely forgot, and I'm starting to realize that if Mexico does have these fixtures where they're gonna have their home support, they're gonna have the majority of their support, it's gonna be like they're playing at home, and they're going to do very well. So moving forward, I expect Mexico to do well, and good for them, and they fully deserve it. So that's pretty much the end of that was the end of the first 5-6 games of the first round. We have Argentina playing next. I think they play, what do they play? I'm not exactly sure, I gotta go check, but Argentina plays tomorrow. I think they play Chile tomorrow. Yeah, that's going to be a good matchup. Should be another good game back-to-back, which is going to be great. After that series of shit games, it's going to be nice to have 2 good matchups back-to-back. Fully expect Argentina to do well. They have amazing firepower. Of course, their bench is ridiculous. So looking forward. Again, I'm going to try to do these once a week, do little recaps. I'm also going to be putting out my prediction for the entire tournament. That'll be up later on tonight. But for now, please subscribe, like, share. And if you have any comments, concerns, any sort of hate or arguments that you want to, throw my way, please do. I'm fully excited and happy to accept all those, and I'm happy to engage with you guys. So thank you thank you very much for listening, and we will see you guys soon. Peace.